Welcome back, class. Thanks for tuning in. Hope that you're safe and you're healthy and that you're taking care of each other. But we're going to jump right in here to our lesson today. Again, these are just opportunities for you to continue education. I think it's kind of important. So let's jump right in. Let's take a look at our topics today. Topics, what we're looking at is we're in week 7 now, part 1, and we're looking at slope, y-intercepts, slope-intercept form, standard form, general form. It's the way of when you're given a line, right? The last couple weeks we've been talking about slope, the way that they draw a line, how they tilt it. Well, now we're going to come up with the equation for it. So if you were to go into like Google, it would actually draw the line for you, so you can see it. So we're going to be looking at a graph and then transferring that and figuring out what the formula is for it. So this is pretty easy stuff. It's kind of the easiest way to do it. So there's a bunch of different ways of getting it. So these are the different forms of lines when you type them into Google. The one we're going to be focused on is called Slope-Intercept Form. It's exactly what the name suggests. We're going to be looking at slope. So that's the way that the line is tilted. It's the fraction that we've been finding the last couple weeks. And then we're going to look at an intercept. An intercept is, more specifically, is called a y-intercept. It is where it hits the y-axis. Now, if you don't know, the y-axis, it's clearly labeled on this graph. It is the big Y here. It's any number that hits on that line going straight down. So, for instance, if I just draw a picture here, this slope has a certain type of, or this line has a certain type of slope, a certain fraction that represents how it's tilted, and the important numbers are what the slope is, like how it's going up and over, and then also right where it hits the y-axis. Really, that's the only two things we need to look at. It's super simple. Once you get it figured out, there's a lot of stuff we can do with it, especially if you have data and you're trying to get, have your business and you're trying to figure out the actual numbers and how it's involved. So we're going to be finding slope, so kind of like what we did in the last couple weeks, but also that y-intercept one more step. So it's like an extra piece that we throw in there. All right, so let's jump right into the first one here. So on this one, the big important part is knowing where it hits the y-axis. We hit the y-axis right at 0, 0. So that's a coordinate I'm going to write down. That 0, 0 is my y-intercept. The actual coordinate where it crossed. That's important. We're going to use that here in a minute. It's important to identify where it actually hit the y-axis. And then the slope itself is maybe we're going to find another coordinate and find slope. So I can pick any dot that I want. I'll pick like another dot down the road. Doesn't really matter. That dot is what? 2 over, 2 up. So it's 2 over, 2 up. That's kind of the next dot that I saw. You can pick any dot. I just picked that one. It looked like it was a nice little crosshair. Again, it's right and left number first, and then the up and down number second. Doing the slope, this is what we've been doing the last couple weeks, so this should be probably the familiar part. I'm going to label these x and y's, x and y's. My slope formula is y minus y. There we go, x minus x. Okay, so I'm going to plug these numbers in, and we're going to find this out. So what we have is y minus y, so 0 minus the 2. That is my 2 y numbers. And then my x's are 0 and 2. So what I'm getting here is I'm going to get a negative 2, so that's 0 minus 2 is negative 2, over a negative 2. The negative signs cancel, so it's 2 over 2. Perfect. That simplifies as well, but that's the slope. And then, so the slope is a fraction. And then the other thing is the y-axis number, the y-intercept. That was, so I'm going to highlight this in a blue color. This is the y-intercept. So that was the important number. In fact, how the y-intercept works, it will always have the 0 right here, and it will have whatever number it wants in the back. Now, mine just happens to be a 0. That is the actual number we need. We actually need this back number, this number right here, the y number. So the formula we're going to come up with, and this is the main part of what we're doing today, is the formula, and it's called Slope-Intercept Form. Slope-Intercept Form. It's the go-to form for if you have a graph and I want to come up with a formula for it. This is what the formula looks like. Y equals mx plus b. That's the formula. And my m is slope, so that's what the letter we've been using for slope this whole time. So in my case, my slope is 2 over 2. So that goes in the little m spot. Notice the y and the x stay where they're at. And then the b number in the back, this b is the y-intercept. I don't know why they picked a b, they just picked a b. And that is the number that I circled up here. It's this number. It's that 0. So I'm going to plug a 0 in there. So wherever I hit the y-axis at, that number goes in the back. It could be a positive or negative number. It doesn't really matter. And this is what we're going for. This is the formula for that line. So if I went to Google, type that in exactly how you see it there, it would draw this line that you're seeing here. And that's actually how I did it. So let's go to the next one. Let's do the exact same thing. So we're going to do 3 of these. So, drawing this out. So, my y-intercept, pretty easy. It's that number right there. So, the coordinate for that spot is 0. Right and left, it's up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So, 0, 5. So, that's my y-intercept. That's important. We need that one. That's important. And now I'm going to just pick another dot down the road. I'll pick this dot right here, just kind of somewhere down the road. That coordinate is 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's 4 over and what? 2 up. So that's 4, 2. Again, right and left number first, up and down number second. That's how I did 0, 5. Right and left first, up and down number second. So my two coordinates, 0, 5, and the 4, 2. Now I'm going to find slope, so I'm going to go back to my formula that we did the last couple weeks here, right? Subtract the y numbers, subtract the x numbers. So my y numbers, the y numbers are always the back numbers. So that's the 5 and the 2, I'm going to subtract those. The x numbers are the 0 and the 4. So it looks like it's going to end up being 3 over negative 4, so it's a negative slope. It's fine, it was going down to the right, it is dropping as you go, so that makes sense. My y-intercept number, if I circle this, my y-intercept number is the 5. That's because, again, the 0's in the front. Whatever this number is behind it, that's my y-intercept number. It's where it hit the y-axis at. It hit it at 5. So my formula for slope-intercept form. So slope-intercept form. This is the go-to form in all of algebra. It's y equals mx plus b. So, my slope. Plug in my numbers here. It's y equals 3 over negative 4x. That's my slope. Now the y number, the b number, my y-intercept, the b number I hit at 5, so it's positive 5. And there you go. This is what they're looking for. I plugged in slope, I plugged in my y-intercept, there's the formula. And it represents this line. So if I type that into Google, it would draw it out. Alright, last problem, same exact thing. This is the last problem. So here's my y-intercept here. So that's 0 right and left, up and down 2. So that's my y-intercept number. So that's important that I find that first. And then I'll pick another coordinate down the road. I'll just pick this one right here. So what is that? 2 over 1 up. So there you go. And these are going to be my two coordinates. So 0, 2, and 2 over 1 up. Alright, so those are my two coordinates. So doing the slope formula. Again, x and y, x and y. My formula for slope, subtract the y numbers, then subtract the x numbers. So the y numbers are 2 minus the 1. My x numbers are 0 and the 2. So this ends up being a 1 over negative 2, which makes sense. It is dropping and running. And going into slope-intercept form. Oh, draw that eye. That's so weird. I want it. That's so weird it wouldn't let me draw the intercept. Alright. Slope-intercept form. So we have y equals 1 over negative 2x. What, plus 2? So I went kind of fast there, sorry. I plugged in my slope and I plugged in my y-intercept into the formula. So that's why they call it slope-intercept form. It's not real creative on the name. But the slope is plugged in and my y-intercept is plugged in. Again, the y-intercept is where it hit the y-axis. It hit at 2. That's where it hit. Alright, hopefully that made sense. Those are my 3 problems I want to get through today. I submitted a Google form, so you can go back and check some of those out. And next week we're going to continue this topic, but do a little bit more with it. So hopefully this will kind of build as we go, and hopefully it's going to make a little more sense to you. But again, thank you for all those who are actively participating each week. I know this is kind of tough, but again, first priority is take care of yourself, take care of each other, and I hope to see you real soon.